Hey guys, welcome back. This is not a review, this is my Talking Oscars. It also happens to be Christmas. So it's Christmas and we're I'm still talking Oscars on Christmas Day. It is Christmas morning for me. I'm doing this on Christmas morning before I do anything else. So, uh, yeah. This is your Christmas present. Last week we reevaluated the Best Picture race, and this week we are reevaluating the Best Actor race. I gave my preview yesterday, and I've learned not to name every single person in my preview, so that way maybe these videos get a little bit more views. So, let's go down the list and talk about where the state of the race is. Let's start out with the obvious choices. I think still at the top of the list, we have Brendan Fraser for The Whale. It's one of those films that has evolved so much since it originally premiered, and it got that standing ovation. Then it got like another standing ovation because it went to another film festival, and they also stood for Brendan Fraser. And I think at the time that we equated those standing ovations to the film, it's turning out more and more that people are not as supportive of the overall film, just Brendan Fraser. It's a little like Till with Danielle Detweiler. Like, Till has been reduced to apparently just Danielle Detweiler, which is kind of unfair because I haven't actually heard a bad review for Till. I haven't heard people go, I didn't like Till. And yet Till disappeared from the Oscar race, and Danielle Detweiler couldn't even get a Golden Globe nomination, which is bizarre. But I've heard nothing but praise about her performance. Every single critic just raved about her, and that's kind of what's happening about The Whale. Is that people who don't like The Whale still think Brendan Fraser's incredible. Like, I've seen people who are like, I didn't like The Whale, thought it was terrible, blah, 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 it's fatphobic and it's gay, but Brendan Fraser's great. I've seen that. And so, if you can hate the movie and love the performance, I don't see how he doesn't get nominated. I think he's got a little bit more of a battle to win. I don't think I thought he was a shoo-in to win, but Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin has been getting a lot of attention, and it would also be his first win. It's actually both of their first nominations, and they've both been around for a while. And Banshees is a little bit more accessible, and it's this film that people have accepted with more open arms. It's a film that is very likely going to get many Oscar nominations. The Whale might, if it gets anything above Brendan Fraser, it may only be in like 2 or 3 categories. Actually, it's likely to be in at least 2, because I can't imagine a film doesn't get makeup. So it might get like a 3rd category. Some people think it could get an adapted screenplay still, but it's pretty much out of the Best Picture race. But Banshees of Inisherin, it's a lock for Best Picture. People are betting on Martin McDonagh not being left out of this race, like he was for 3 Billboards for Best Director. You've got the possibility of 2 supporting actor nominations for Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan. You've got Carrie Condon, who is now being called the front runner in the supporting actress category. You've got an obvious screenplay nomination, and then you've got some below the line stuff too. So I mean, this film could easily get anywhere from 7 to 10 nominations, depending on how well received it is in the below the line categories. Because above the line, you've already got like 6 nominations, 7 with original screenplay. So you just need a couple more nominations, and Banshees could very well be leading this this season. So it could be the film of the moment, and that could help Colin Farrell a lot. But he's definitely a lock. Those 2 are definitely locks. And the other lock, I hate to say it, is Austin Butler from Elvis. It feels like, for a July release, it was hard for me to call him a lock. For a while, I thought he was like the 5th place spot way back, and that was when a lot of things were still sight unseen, and we were like really hard on Hugh Jackman like getting a nomination and being like, oh yeah, he's definitely Hugh Jackman. And it's funny how Austin Butler has proven himself worthy, and he's shown up every place he needs to show up. I don't see in this race where we kind of, I would say spots 4 and 5 are wide open. I don't see how Austin Butler doesn't get in. I don't see how there isn't enough support for him. He's campaigning well. He just did Saturday Night Live. He's reminding people he still exists. He's doing the interviews. He did his Actors on Actors with Janelle Monáe. So he's making people aware of him. He feels a little bit like the new kid on the block. I think he's the new kid on the block. I think he's going to be the one, when you look at somebody like Diego Calva for Babylon, who doesn't have the nomination, who doesn't have the screen credits, or Gabriel LaBelle from The Fabelmans. Like, how many of those sort of out of nowhere young guys being nominated could possibly get in? And I think Austin Butler kind of already gives that check mark off there. So now it's time to talk about the other two. I'm still leaning on Jeremy Pope. There's something about this race that tells me to bet on 5 white guys is the strangest thing ever. And I don't see them nominating Will Smith for Emancipation. I know Apple doesn't have much to campaign, but I think if Apple is really reading the room and testing using a barometer to feel out the competition, their best bet is Brian Tyree Henry. It's not Will Smith. It's not Emancipation. Emancipation is divisive. It doesn't have the great critic scores. It's not really picking up any nominations. But Brian Tyree Henry has shown up in several places, and he could really sneak in and take that 5th spot if Apple's willing to campaign him. So I just don't think Will Smith is going to happen. Hopefully Apple can see that. It's just not. But the weird thing is, beyond those two, there really aren't any other leading actors to talk about that are of color. I mean, like, Jonathan Majors for Devotion? That film is barely tracking. It only got, of the 10 categories, I think one of them shortlisted Devotion for anything. It's just not registering. It's a very weird, sort of relaxed year for actors of color. So I think it's possible that Golden Globe nomination for Jeremy Pope really put people onto The Inspection. And suddenly when they get the screeners for it and they end up watching it, I've heard he's great. I think this could be something that slowly sneaks in. I think we'll see if he gets the SAG nomination. These last 2 spots are, I don't feel good about either of them, to be totally honest. But I also don't feel good. It's sort of like, I know we have international voters now. And so for me to bet on 10 Best Picture nominees with no international nominees just doesn't feel right. It doesn't, my gut instinct. But then I've got like multiple foreign language potential nominees. Same thing in the director's race. It's like, okay, so we have a couple different directors that could be nominated. I don't think it's as simple as saying, oh, RRR. It's going to be RRR everywhere. It's like, is it? I don't know. I don't know that it is. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that it's RRR necessarily, because the other 2 films are loved as well. And that's the kind of the case here is, I don't know really about these last 2 spots, but I've got Jeremy Pope in for 4. And for 5, only because I think everyone has seen his film, and he hasn't been nominated since Magnolia for supporting actor. Maybe Jerry Maguire. I actually can't remember if he was nominated for Magnolia. He was nominated for Magnolia. I think Magnolia was his last nomination. So Tom Cruise for Top Gun Maverick. He's been around forever. Even people who think his religion is weird, have all say he's a delightful person to work with. So he's built up this list of people, you know, that enjoy working with him, and he's well known. Um, you know, when push came to shove, I mean, he gave his Golden Globes back, which probably cost him his Golden Globe nomination this year. He's shown up other places in other precursor awards. People are taking this award seriously, and Top Gun Maverick ends up being a contender. I didn't just see Top Gun Maverick, but I actually had him in my 5th spot before that. I just started believing the hype that just because of the sheer amount of people who have seen the film, that when you throw in all the other little people, what you're looking for is really all the other nominations are really small films. They're from films that it's the question across everybody's mind is, did people see it? Will it be nominated? And you're looking at some nominees who they might be their film's only nominee. There isn't really a clamor to get anybody out. I don't think Diego Calva, Babylon is too divisive. I don't see him being nominated. Paul Mescal for Aftersun. Aftersun is hitting and just slowly starting to rise. I think he's a lot stronger than some other people think he is. Because his film is on the upturn. His film is not going down. His film hasn't leveled off. It certainly hasn't done any of that. It's very much on the, if we can get enough people to see it. Him and Jeremy Pope are both kind of going up in terms of people are just now finding out about our films. People are just now watching our films. Oddly enough, both A24 films. So A24 has, whoever is in charge of their Oscar campaigns has their work cut out for them this year. But it's possible Paul Mescal could be nominated for Aftersun. I wouldn't be surprised. I actually think Hugh Jackman is still in this for The Sun. I think Hugh Jackman is very much in this similar position to where Daniel Detweiler is for Till, where support for his film has vanished, but he could actually still end up being the only nominee. They're still campaigning The Sun. I haven't seen much from Hugh Jackman. I don't know that he needs to campaign that much, but I have seen Laura Dern campaign, which is really interesting to me, that she's out there campaigning for a film in which she's not really registering at all. But what she's doing is she's reminding people that The Sun exists. And it's this thing that's out there for people to watch. And if people watch it and they like Hugh Jackman in the film and enough people will nominate him, it's possible. He's been nominated elsewhere. It's not like he's been totally left off of every list. It's not that wild of a choice to say that he could slide in the 5th spot with a surprise nomination. He makes more sense than Will Smith does at this point. Yeah. So I do think Hugh Jackman has a shot. And the big one I think that a lot of people believe is a lock is Bill Nighy. And I don't, because of the same reason. What else is his film up for? I've seen some people mention it as a long shot dark horse possibility in adapted screenplay. And that's it. That's it. So he's also in the same boat as these actors that are carrying their films, but they're the only nomination. So you're trying to get people to watch a Bill Nighy film in mass to get him nominated. And yes, he's been nominated for Golden Globes and Critics' Choice. When it comes to SAG, they've had the most amount of time to watch these films that came along late. Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, did they really get to see Aftersun? Did they really get to see, how many of these people really got to see all of these films? And Critics' Choice also nominates 6 people. So the question is, who is the 6th person in that category? Because that person could fall off the face of will fall off the face of the planet, because the Oscars are only going to nominate 5. So it's interesting. The whole concept is interesting to me because of the lateness of the nominations. It gives The Oscar voters have the most amount of time to see these films, to get these screeners out and to see them. And the SAG nominations will come first, and we'll see who ends up getting those other spots other than the top three who are locked. And it'll help shape the race. But right now, I'm going with Jeremy Pope and Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise has the biggest, positive in that everybody has seen his film. And I think Jeremy Pope, by getting the Golden Globe nomination, really helped his film just suddenly be discovered. I haven't heard anything divisive about The Inspection. I haven't heard a single person go, I don't like The Inspection. It shouldn't be there. It's not like The Sun, which kind of has like an anti-campaign working against it, where there are people who are actively trying to not get the film nominated. It's not like that at all. I don't know that there's any other wild card nominations. We did just get Tom Hanks releasing A Man Called Otto. Man, he's gonna have to make up ground because his film was released. He's releasing his film at Christmas, and it's one of those films like I Want to Dance with Somebody that nobody really saw. It turns out nobody saw I Want to Dance with Somebody because the film's not very good. So that's why that film was not in the Oscar race. But A Man Called Otto, people genuinely seem to be going, oh, that was better than I thought it was going to be. It's kind of delightful. I like that. He's got to make up a lot of ground real fast, but he's Tom Hanks. But he's Tom Hanks. And being Tom Hanks didn't help him with Captain Phillips. He's been in other films. He's been in other races before, Bridge of Spies. He's been in great roles where the Academy has just been like, you know what, dude, you've got 2 Best Actor Oscars already. We've nominated you multiple times, and they just don't nominate him. And it's a weird year for him because he's been in a couple different films, and they weren't necessarily his best performances. So I don't know. I don't think A Man Called Otto can make up the difference, but I will mention it. I don't see anything else though. I don't really see there being another nominee. I don't think there's a foreign nominee in this category, like an international nominee. I just really, I don't see that happening. But yeah. So if you're looking to predict 4 and 5, there's kind of like a grouping that you can pick them from. You have to have the top 3. To not have the top 3 makes you a crazy person at this point. Because when you have 2 open spots, it's like saying there's a huge gap. There's these 3, and then there's 2 giant question marks. So, yeah. And Living does not have the same profile as The Whale. So it's just not, it's not, The Whale is doing really great in its limited release. Its per screen average is really high. Everybody's going to check out The Whale. You don't hear that about Living. You don't hear people going out and being like, rushing out to see Bill Nighy and Living. It's tough to sell a Bill Nighy film. Even though it feels like it's his time because he's Bill Nighy, he's been around forever, he's never been nominated. You can sell that narrative all you want, but you can also just keep not nominating Bill Nighy. So there is a world in which this category ends up not being, 5 first-time nominees. There is a way in which this category ends up being 5 first-time nominees without Tom Cruise. But that's a weird thing to say. An entire Best Actor race with all first-time nominees. I don't know. It's a weird race. Because there's this gap. There's a gap. So anyway, those are my predictions. Brendan Fraser, Colin Farrell, Austin Butler, Jeremy Pope, and Tom Cruise. Right now, I'm thinking maybe not everybody will get to see Bill Nighy. There's been such a diversity push that when it comes to me choosing Bill Nighy versus Jeremy Pope, I think the diversity push is going to work in Jeremy Pope's favor. The nominees that keep getting put in are international or of color, or recently nominated themselves. Obviously, they always add the ones who just got nominated, but for the most part, they're moving in a direction, and it's just going to keep reshaping who gets nominated. And I would not be surprised at all to see Jeremy Pope. You know, nobody thought Penelope Cruz was a front runner for that 5th spot at the Best Actress race last year. We're going to have one of those. Where is it going to be? One where people go, oh my God. But it's not really that shocking. It's not the one that people expected. And I think that could be Jeremy Pope. So, that's where I'm putting my cards. Join me next week when I tackle Best Actress. Ramble about that for 20 minutes. So, if you like my channel, please subscribe. I'm 8 subscribers away from my year-end goal. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and got all the presents that you wanted. I didn't get my 8 subscribers. They were not under the Christmas tree. I looked. They weren't there. My website's MacAmovieGuy.com. You can follow me on Twitter at MacAmovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the adna.org. That's the adna.org. And look up your favorite films and television series and see who narrates them. I will review something else. And of course, I'll be back with another Talking Oscars next week. But until then, I will see you on the other side.